to the cloud. I am also going to begin to put this live on Facebook here. And once again, I really hope that those of us who have watched it, those of us who have participated in these discussions for this past week, that the hope is that we are really going to we're doing action items. And for Owen, who's chiming in from Australia, hopefully in this, we are even able to address some issues that you have in your corner of the globe, where we're gonna hopefully unwrap some mysteries, because where are the wrongful convictions in Australia? I know there's many, and I'm gonna bet that most of them are Aboriginal. Just a guess. So we can get people active, various continents and time codes and so on and so forth. All right.
Got to
So
say, like the leadership from your community has shown here, we do have the issues of Aboriginal incarceration and murder by the police have been raised again in our society because of the things that the horror that we see in your community sometimes, like or at this time, I guess. So yeah, it definitely is having an impact over here, which is really good.
yes, and we, when I try to do these things, these are literally discussions. I'm trying to incorporate everybody. So, everybody is, welcome, and all of these issues. It's not just an issue that is, affects, us in our little backyard. This is local, this is national, this is international, global, you know what I mean? So we have to as we've all said, the issues that have been brought to light, or not even brought to light because we knew about these issues before, but the issues that have been really highlighted, accentuated, and punctuated in this Netflix video and others, that once again show that there are fundamental flaws in the system. What system? All the systems in America and wherever. So now we're going on. This thing is about to go live on Facebook, but all right. Okay, so let's go back, y'all. Once again, thank everybody for tuning in. God bless you all. And now the discussion is really, we're not gonna rehash what happened in the 8 episodes of what we just watched, only to use it as fodder for, like, accentuating a point that we're bringing up now, in terms of, oh, when that happened here, then, oh, well, we know we need to tighten it up on internal affairs or this or that. So right now, this one is, we saw all the problems. Now we are trying to make the prescription to what can fix and address not only the problems that have already happened, but hopefully prevent these types of problems from happening in the future. Okay, now if you guys would just rock with me for a minute, and also too, maybe if, okay, what I'm gonna do now here is I'm gonna actually open up a share screen thing. And Jake, I'm about to chime in on you. You know, as always, I'm gonna depend on you. Jake is one of my great partners who helps out multiple. How many participants can share? Is it no, all participants. Okay. So now I believe you can share. So Jake, if you would, please just begin by opening up a Word document. And we're gonna do a Word document. I want to walk people through a little bit of, you've been through this before, of how we just kind of tackle issues. And we're gonna crowdsource the great minds that we have here now, but we're going to understand that we have a couple of points that we're going to hit. And of course, where's my favorite pen? Oh, here it is. All right. Boom. All right. So one thing we're going to try to do is attack the places where we want to deal with it. So I would say, I need a clean piece of paper here. Okay, so I would say that we want to establish a couple of things. We want to establish policy, right? And policy is stuff that it can be city and state levels. So we want to make those notations. It could be at the city state level, but there's policy. Then there's also legislation, which certain policy can also then be developed into legislation. Once again, that is city and state. But when you come to that is most often state normally deals with legislation, because when you get into city, it's like ordinances and executive orders and so on and so forth. Okay, then there are the people that we may want to I'm going to use the term attack. It's not an attack. The people that we may want to attack, in terms of the people that we want to approach with this. So let's call that targets, right? And that would be obviously SCDA. Suffolk County District Attorney's, SCDAO, right? Rachel Rawlins, so RR. That would also be AG Maura Healey, MH, right? That would also be US attorney. What did we say his name is again? I'm blanking out.
Lelling.
Lelling, thank you. And I don't know if that's one L in the beginning or if it's a double L in the beginning and then a double N in the end, but we'll figure that out. But okay, yeah, Lelling. Boom. Okay, then we could also say too, who is the local FBI guy now too? There was a recent change with the FBI guy. And maybe that's the one. I hate when my brain fries like this. I don't want to, but whatever. Whoever the local FBI is, okay? So between Suffolk County District Attorney, Rachel Rawlins, obviously, Attorney General Maura Healey, U.S. Attorney Michael Lelling, right? And then whoever's the head of the FBI could be targets when, no, pardon self. Let me add to that target list. Let me also add, obviously, BPD, whatever we call BPD commissioner or BPD admin, right? And then also COB, City of Boston admin. Oh, damn. See, this is what happens when we brainstorm. We're throwing all sorts of stuff at the wall. Actually, then also to put in there local reps and senators, because they also have a stake in it. Okay. So, all right, boom. All of these lists at any moment could get potentially longer. Yeah. Add another thing. A local elected, state, city, and what do we want to call Ayana's level? Yep. And like the joke, congressional or federal. Yes, thank you. Bang. We want all those people involved. Okay. Then now let's talk about what we've talked about doing. Okay. So now this is where it's going to get a little bit more sticky. Okay, hold on for just a second. Hold on, bear with me, y'all. Okay. Um, Somebody be my thesaurus. What's another word for absolution?
Exoneration.
Yeah, well, thank you, Captain Obvious. That's the word I was looking for in the beginning. That's the word of the hour. You dig? Okay, all right, y'all. So now, now the things that we were thinking about. Okay, just keep that button it or whatever, but do another level, Jake.
Yep.
Because what we were talking about writing a letter, right? Just go a whole nother level underneath that, like a whole separate thing. Yeah. So we were talking about doing a letter, right? Talking about doing a letter. Yeah, there you go, strategies. We're talking about doing a letter. We were talking about doing legislation, right? We were talking about an investigation into already whatever this has brought up, you know, the corruption, the overtime scandal, you know, all of that. Okay. Then also too, we also want compensation, right? The part where he actually is somehow made whole monetarily, right? And then is the get AFL-CIO to decertify unions if they want. Okay, great. Yes, compensation is a desired. Yes, we're gonna. Yes. Kimberly, y'all. A lot of y'all don't know her. She's a great mind that I know, and like, right now I'm trying to just, I'm doing brain fart at the wall. This is all like all the scatter shot, and we still haven't even gone through what we actually wrote down when we got through it. This is just like a thing. Okay, so somebody said AFL-CIO to decertify the unions if they won't move towards justice. Right. Well, get your guns. Policy law, and the last thing was absolution and exoneration. Oh, hold up, with the AFL-CIO thing, then you might as well put in there, yeah, decertify. You put it, yeah, decertification. Yeah, there you go. Not just decertify, yeah, decertification, not just decertify unions, but decertification of specific officers, as we have already, we already had promoted. Okay, you see how quick this goes, y'all? Welcome to my world. Okay. All right, so now let's take a moment to everybody. Who does anybody have anything to say about thus far? Just this kind of, I guess this would be called like a scatter plot.
Yes, I have a question. What does AFL-CIO stands for?
I believe it's the American Federation of Labor. It's basically the overarching organizations that kind of give unions their authority. So, you know, we have like SEIU, the service industry, healthcare folks, but they are like underneath the AFL-CIO, which represents a bigger grouping of unions as a whole.
Yeah, it's a lot better than a police union on its own, right? Because they have a lot more stake than just the police. Like everything else can be harmed if their police are bad.
I put that in because I'm part of a public union. I'm part of the MTA. I teach at UMass Boston, and if you think about like map what's going on in this story over to like a professor in a state university system, there's no way that union would support that professor. It just wouldn't happen. And so there's something in the union. What happened to the police unions is different than what's happened to other unions. It's just different. And I don't know what's different about it, but it does feel different to me. So I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Last time we talked, I think it was on Thursday. You said something about a conviction integrity unit.
Thank you.
I was just throwing that out there. I don't know if that's like later on in the conversation though.
No,
Nope. No, it actually is. No, actually is, but it's who just said that actually?
Rachel.
Rachel?
Yeah. I only say that because there you go. Because I have the whole grid open and I couldn't see you, but all right, yeah, I see you.
Yeah, you're fine.
I see you. You're live on Hollywood Squares.
Perfect.
All right, good. So okay, and see Joseph Eubanks, he's doing a lot of stuff by chat. Hopefully people too also help me monitor the chat because comments are coming in via chat as well. And when we do the share screen, it becomes more difficult for me to monitor chat. So Joseph Eubanks says, what about these racist, classist, and sexist judges who are wicked and act like gods? Absolutely. Let me just put that into let me just try to button that into a thing we're going to call judicial accountability. Okay. Marketing in me. All right. So now, if y'all don't mind now I'm going to go back, way back into the beginning of these things and everything we started from the beginning of what came up with suggestions. Okay. Bear with me. Bump. Oh, sorry, brother. All right, let me see here. Okay, well, we definitely want to understand about the production of witnesses, coaching / tampering of witnesses, right? That came up with obviously Rosa Sanchez and the fact that, Sarah happened to be, her auntie baby daddy, right? Okay. And the fact, also too, let's say also too, chain of command. This brings up an issue of chain of command. How do narcotics officers run a homicide investigation? Right? How are chain of command? How are narcotics officers on a homicide?
I think also, good evening, everybody. I think also the accountability for this information, because really what was happening with Sean earlier, I think, is the info that would exonerate him was being purposefully held back. And there was never any accountability for that for years and years. And I think if there was a process to make sure that, they don't get carried away with that.
We ain't got there yet, but we might as well do it now, damn it. So yes. So withholding of information, and we're going to say withholding of information. We're going to do / evidence. We're going to do / investigation, because all of those may be very different things. And they withheld all of it. You know what I mean? They withheld information they had, they withheld evidence they had, and they withheld investigations. Well, there needs to be a clear There needs to be a clear, what do you call it? Oh, chain of custody. That's what that's called. Chain of custody. With the actual information. Chain of custody of info, meaning that they can't just take a report and then it just disappears into the ether. Once that they do that report has to go somewhere that somebody else is doing. Hold on. Cornell says he has no Zoom access. Oh, gee, whizzikers. Damn. Oh,
Did you lock the meeting?
no, it's not locked or anything. Okay, and because I'm right in the middle of a thing, is Darrell still here? Slim, are you still here? Or Jake?
Yeah, I'm still in the building.
All right, Slim. Can you send a Facebook message to Cornell to give him the Thug Thizzle?
Yep, I got you.
All right, good luck. Okay, so
I just shared the document I'm working on with you if you want to combine.
You made it into a Google Doc.
Yes, sir.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you.
And
No,
if you want me to give anybody access on here, you can tell them to drop their email in here.
right. So yeah, exactly. So yeah, people can get access to this. We could all add on to. But you know, right now I'm just reveling in the fact that I got a white man working for me. So you're gonna type and I'm gonna talk.
I hate you so much right now.
This is my buddy. I love Jake. I've known Jake since he's been like 15 years old. That's my buddy.
I was about to say, I'm built for this, man.
Exactly.
White man can work.
You've been trained well. So, okay, so the clear chain of the custody, meaning that once one report goes in, it has to be like it just can't disappear. Reports can't disappear. And now also too, the beauty of it is now we're in new technology mode and blah, blah, blah. That was the 80s and the 90s and whatnot. But now it's like if you do a complaint or whatever, you know, they have tracking numbers and you know what I mean, all that type of thing. So really we have to make sure that no report can disappear into the ether. Okay. Other point that you brought up, Chief, with it was because it's not just withholding the information, the evidence, investigations, the clear chain of custody. The other thing that also comes into is we addressed this pretty much on the task force, but we could double down on this. The FOIAs and the public records requests. All right, so BPD is traditionally horrible in just responding to what their like their legal mandate is. They are bound by state and federal law as well as city ordinance or whatever. Like they have to respond to public inquiries. And there's two types of public inquiries. There is public records, that's under the Massachusetts state law. And then there is the FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, which is under the federal law. Doesn't matter. They don't respond to either one of them correctly, timely, blah, blah, blah. And traditionally, if you talk to any lawyer, any journalist, any university who's trying to do like a report, they will tell you that these people have, you know, hogged this information. So that's another level of information and just withholding information, because it's not just withholding information in investigations and all that, but it is also withholding information at the level of even the public record requests. Okay, boom. So we got that in there. All right, great. I also want to make sure too that, where am I at here? I want to make sure that nobody else who is trying to come in. Oh yeah, you know what? See, that might be the thing. 3 people entered the waiting room. See, Cornell might be in the way. Okay, see, I know these people. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Because we were getting Zoom bombed and I don't know how to open multiple screens. Okay, boom. All right. Cornell, Laverne, and Kathy, are you up in here now?
Yeah, I made it. I'm on.
I'm sorry, that's my fault. We got Zoom bombed earlier. We got
Oh man, I've been out here waiting.
we got bachata bombed. All right, okay, so let me keep this screen open too. All right. But yeah, we in the middle of the griddle. Okay, so boom. So we got that. All right. DA Roker. Oh, yeah. We also made points of oftentimes that we talk about police misconduct, right? And police misconduct and such and such. And bad apple police. We talked about this the other day. We also need to talk about prosecutorial prosecutorial misconduct and bad prosecutors. So while we need a list of the bad cops, we also need to develop a list of the bad prosecutors, those who have knowingly used bad information, bad informants, whether it was a street informant or it was, a cop that they know. I think Cornell, you told the story the other day where Keeler couldn't get none of his stuff listened to except by one particular who was it? Was it Zalkins? Who was it? Or was it Pappas? Who was the only one that would end up rubber stamping Keeler's stuff? Okay, Cornell might have took a break, but in any event, he specifically talked about a Keeler.
I forget his name. It was we can ask him. It was one of the specific ones that she kept on.
It was featured. It was either Zalkin, Zakin.
It was Zalkin, yeah.
Yeah, there you go, Zolkin. So yeah, so we need to create a mechanism by which not only bad police officers are stopped, but also bad prosecutors are stopped and identified. We need a list. We need a list of bad, corrupt cops. We need a list of bad, corrupt prosecutors. Okay, so we have that. Boom.
Just say something.
Huh?
I'm really sorry to interrupt. I come from like a corporate environment, and I know what bad culture looks like. And my view is that like this is you just provided dot points of like a system that doesn't work for truth or justice at any level. Have you tried flipping people from inside the police department to talk about this publicly, like to talk about the failures of culture? Because that's that's like what you're describing here is just, that's not a justice system.
Well, let me tell you, my friends. Yes, we have tried. And sadly, we have been fought at almost every attempt.
And one good man of speak honestly could change how people look at this. Maybe I don't know. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt in this.
No, it's no interruption. It's good. If you see a lot of other people are smiling, because not for nothing, what you bring, my friend, is hope from abroad. What you bring is international hope. God bless you, right? But I'm just going to tell you is that up here, I wish it did work like that. And I wish that we could just reason with people and bring up these things that, clearly make sense, right? And that we could be for, what do they call it? I'm sure you know about Superman, even in Australia. And what was he for? Truth, justice, and the American way. Well, it's all bullshit. And that's what we're trying to really, come to grips here with, that the very people who are the ones who have, put out that propaganda to the world, who have been on the bully pulpit and the moral authority saying, we are the most truthful, we are the most just, we are the most equitable, that in fact, they are not. And I would say, oh, well, look, I don't even need to do I would say. Quite simply, statistics and, you know, stuff bears out that America has more people in prison than the rest of the world, who they call uncivilized, and these are the dictators, and these are the regimes of, you know, terror and all this. But in fact, America is worse than China, it's worse than Russia, it's worse than Uzbekistan. You know, America is bad.
I'm reading this book right now. One of my interests is I'm reading about the history of justice, right? And the thing that keeps striking me is that these things about for-profit prisons and justice being about systems rather than like not having elected judges and all that, you know, those discussions happened in 1790 and 1800. You know, they were bad societies, they were horrible places, but no one, like, it's like, yeah, like you can take arguments directly from 1790 to 1850 and you could put them word for word to people in America, to judges and justice, people working in justice, and I don't think they'd be able to answer them, you know?
And you preaching to the choir. And here's what I want you to do. Well, first of all, let me ask you a question. How old a guy are you?
Just 29. Just turned 29.
God bless you. I want you and Jake to become friends. You and Jake exchange some stuff. I want you and Jake to become friends. Jake, help your brother from across the continent on his journey to understand everything. You know, Jake, you know, listen, y'all go be friends, okay? And Owen, what I'm gonna say to this is one thing too. I want you to put the title of that book and the author in the chat as well, so that we can know what you're talking about. And we're gonna stay in contact. And you know, once again, this is real stuff. And God bless the fact that you know, came across this. You know what I mean? And it is very unjust.
Oh, and I just sent you my email. If you want to tap in, we can definitely continue to converse offline. You know,
I'll get you an email, and I'll send you an email, and yeah, I'll listen. And thanks.
Thank you for tapping in, sir. We appreciate you.
Yeah. And not for nothing too, you know, the one thing that this represents is the fact of how mind-blowing this is. You know, anybody can see this and recognize this ain't right. What's happening here is, you know, unjust. And, you know, what Martin Luther King said, you know, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. So anybody who is a lover of justice, no matter where they're at, you know, is going to see these type of instances and say, what the hell? That don't seem right. You know, so now the question is, how can we link up, you know, and finally slay the dragon? But all right, so let's continue. All right, so
hey, Jamal, what would you suggest from a media perspective? How can we, what is the strategy that we can try to invoke to put more bad press? Obviously, there's a few people out there that's not afraid to hold the police accountable, or law enforcement in general accountable in the press. But I mean, because of the size of the problem, like there needs to be a more aggressive approach
absolutely
from the media. Like so for example, what if we had, a bulldog reporter in that media room when statements was made, when the decision came down that they weren't going to prosecute Sean for a fourth time, right? Like, in some of them statements that was made, we need somebody in there, like in the moment to challenge and confront. You understand what I'm saying?
I didn't see any personal responsibility in the corporate world. My response to that was to make it personal, like put people's faces, or I'm going to put people's faces up and the story of their careers and say, this is what defines this person, because there's no other form, there's no personal accountability. Anyway, yeah.
All right, so here's the at least the local media strategy. We know we have a great ally in Chris Ferrone, who also does, some great investigative journalism. We also have the benefit of others, whether it be, David Bernstein or, others in the Globe or so on and so forth. And dare I say that a lot of the things that are coming out in the Globe now have been due to my and others prompting and prodding to say, hey, you need to pay attention to this. Hey, there's some dirt over here. You might want to look. And now at this time, of course, after the George Floyd thing, when it became now sexy, now they're looking and they're like, oh, yeah, there really is some dirt there. And now they're really digging it up. So for media, Jake, up underneath where we had the whole thing letter, because that is a media strategy, the letter. The letter is not only a legislative strategy or to the elected officials, but it also is an open letter to press and whatever. So right under letter, put op-ed, please. Thank you, sir.
Also, along with that, right? It seems like this should be a public forum. I know this is COVID, even if we did a Zoom one, but where we specifically hold, people have to be there, like the commissioner has to be there, or we invite whoever. And I know this is kind of a trick bag, for you, but so-called community leaders, right? People that represent the community, people need to weigh in on this in a public way, where this document that we're putting together here, you know what I'm saying? I think as we put this out, there should be a public forum where it's brought to the public and the leadership of the city, from the political leadership to the civic leadership, whoever, you know what I'm saying, weigh in on this, and have to respond, in light of the documentary and what has come forward.
Boom. Okay. So Jake, put that in public forum. Generally our normal MO is what we call, the community forum, town hall forum, whatever, but a panel. So on that panel, we would at least want, Gross, we would want Rachel Rollins, right? We would want, a couple of city councilors. I'm pretty sure we'd want Mayor Walsh on there.
Yes, absolutely.
Anybody else we could, the judges ain't coming. I would love to get the judges, but they ain't coming. I don't know who else.
What
maybe.
What about a retired judge like Leslie Harris or someone like that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, absolutely. Yep. Retired judges. Yep. And we got a bunch of them. Yep.
Yeah. I also want to throw, I don't know if this is the right spot to put it in, but one of the things that is sort of supporting all of this bullshit with the police is laws, Massachusetts general laws, which we can't change because the police unions and correction unions give a lot of money to the legislators.
Hold on, what do you mean we can't change? What do you mean?
Well, it's harder to change the laws because a lot of the legislators get a lot of money from the police unions and the correctional officer unions. So,
right. So not that we can't, it's just more difficult. And we just have to examine and develop strategies where we develop a mechanism that, there's a balance and there's a counterbalance. Okay, so they're top heavy here, so we have to adjust here. And particularly in this particular time, we would need to identify, and once again, because we ain't even really scratched the surface yet. We are. This is one of the most productive meetings. You know what I mean? We ain't even really got there yet, and we ain't even really gotten to the input yet. This is all just structure of trying to create a thing that can encompass I'm trying to create a vehicle that it can encompass all of the riders that we have. Okay.
So my idea is this, and this is really Disneyland. I totally get this idea is Disneyland. But is there any way we can make it illegal for them to donate so much money? Is there any way we could try to legislate that? Because if we can get their money out of the legislators, I'm not saying it's possible. Maybe it's not. I just wanted to throw it out there. Because
No, pause. It's perfect. Perfect. Rachel, what do you call that? Because what do they do that with when they do with campaigns? What is that? Is it campaign
Lobbying? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, but what is it? But there's like, isn't there like campaign finance caps, or they try to force certain elected officials to say, I will not take donations from the oil industry or whatever? What's the technical term that happens when people are trying to mitigate that?
Corruption, right? Is that what you're talking about? No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, right.
I don't think I have the word. I don't think I have the word for you.
Everyday business.
Oh.
Democracy.
Oh, so you're joking around. I see.
No, but no, seriously, there's a thing where like it's almost like in sports, they put caps on like salary caps. There's certain things
Isn't it when they say they won't take money from PACs?
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Thank you. Yes, thank you.
There we go. Okay.
So
I had no idea.
So PACs, special interest groups, which would include basically that would include police and law enforcement, right? So we need to identify all of the lobbying agencies and foundations of all of the police, and I'm gonna put LEOs here, law enforcement organizations, who operate as PACs and special interest groups. And what we're trying to do is develop some sort of something that will either cap or neutralize their ability to flood, basically to flood the money in an election, to tip the scales of the election via their ability to overwhelm it with, money. Okay.
I want to throw in one little idea with that. I would also suggest you also look at correctional officer unions, because sometimes they're fighting the police battles too. So for example, the whole use of force, how much public people are accountable. Corrections was fighting that along with police. So they sometimes they're like a twofer, like they're a double gang that is collaborating.
I'm gonna put that as union rubber stamp for misconduct and corruption.
Gotcha. Okay.
No, not got me. Does that got you?
Well, I think just including law enforcement and correctional officer unions, because
and correction officers.
Yeah, definitely, because that one of the reasons the police reform bill isn't passing or is having difficulty is because of correctional officers giving money to Baker.
Okay, and corruption of law enforcement, LEOs,
and correctional officers,
and COs. Now, the only thing that I could say, because a lot of people came to me with a lot of correctional officer suggestion when I was on the task force. So the only thing I could say is these are two different bags. There's the police bag, and then there's the correction officer bag. Both are dirty dogs. Now, the one thing that I did try to interject into the discussion about the police reform, and even beforehand with the interjection of when we first introduced police decertification and all that, is the thought that if you're a dirty cop and you finally get fired, miracle of miracles, you finally get fired for doing something wrong, that you can't pop up over here or there and then become a cop here or there, whatever. But the thing was that you can't pop up and then just become a CO.
That's huge. That's important. Yeah.
So that was a thing, because a lot of dirty cops obviously have a soft landing. If I can't be a cop anymore, well, damn it, I can go be a CO, or whatever. So we at least tried to button that up. So I will put that in there, and we'll have it as that. And not for nothing too, a lot of y'all, as you're going in with your suggestions now too, once again, we're jumping ahead, but like we ain't even, this is crazy. We ain't even scratched the surface yet, y'all. By my notes, the stuff that we've already introduced thus far, we're only on episode 3 by my notes. Okay. Jake, were you getting all of this while you were off, or did you miss all of this?
Nah, my computer shut down on me. What I miss real quick?
It's all good. I'm gonna actually
You've got it?
Okay. Let's see. Can we do this right quick?
I think we were talking, it was like the correctional, adding corrections to the movement.
No, I have it.
No?
I was just trying,
Oh, you got it. Okay.
I was just trying to make a good way of,
Okay.
you know what I mean?
So
we trying to mix Jetsons with Flintstone
You have
technology
not
right now.
scratched the surface yet, King.
So yeah, so
As you said. You have
we were,
not.
we were still on funding and political action campaigns, whether or not police could contribute, capping that, all that good stuff.
Right. So right here. So that's right here. See that? PAC, special interest.
Yep, I already have that. I was thinking.
But look right underneath it.
Also, just include the correctional office. Got you.
Exactly. Mom.
Thank you very much, folks.
All right. Yeah, we develop a cap to neutralize law enforcement officers and their ability to flood campaigns with dollars. And we also develop a strategy or a mechanism to deal with the union rubber stamping of misconduct and corruption of both law enforcement officers and COs. And you got the public forum part. Yeah, panel, Gross, retired judges, but yep, you got all that. Okay, great. I've trained you so well. And between me and a BU degree, you've done all right in your life.
Yeah, I mean, I'll let you guess which one's more helpful.
All right. I love it. All right, so now, okay, where are we at now? We did all that.
But I would just add to the police unions, I would just add, looking forward to perhaps being able to sanction these organizations somehow. You know, I don't know the laws as well, but I mean, these organizations have been so egregious. There must be not just a way to look forward, but to say, hey, these organizations are clearly hurting these communities and we have proof. And so there has to be an immediate sanction for these things. So we don't have to wait later in the future and try to create something. It's clear. We have history. So I would just look forward to some way to sanction these groups immediately. And that might actually teach them something.
Okay, so the only thing with that is, we need a lawyer or something, because when you really trying to, you get into the holy grail, when you trying to deal with like union stuff and all that, blah, 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 and the purpose that they're there for and blah, blah, blah. So when you talk about sanction means that they would like somehow get fined or penalized or like, I don't know that you could necessarily do that for them expressing their point of view, regardless of how offensive or ill-informed or ignorant that point of view may be. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Go ahead.
Perhaps this could be the mechanism to just, instead of sanction, just take some of their power away to affect unions, to affect legislators and the elections and so on. Perhaps this is the mechanism.
I'm all for it. Okay, let me do a short, quick little story with it. Okay, Brother Jamal, and why do you chat it in? You can speak. You have a mute. You speak it in. Say your thing. Say, go, Brother Jamal. Go. Go. Or maybe we have computer difficulties.
No, I see that. That's good. That's good. So he says go after the insurance company that insures the law enforcement. Okay.
I was trying to be inclusive. My point is that
King, go.
whatever mechanisms, like I'm all for going for the unions. All right. And in fact, when some of the people were protesting and talk about defund the police and, you know, dismantle and all that, disband the police. I was actually like, you know, we should be talking about disband the union. You know what I'm saying? Look, now that, you know what I'm saying? Now we're talking. But because of the history of workers and unions in this country, you do that, now you run a witch hunt. So taking on police unions, particularly with this whole Blue Lives Matter, and that's a huge battle that I don't know that we can win.
I think the way to go, I think the way the gentleman earlier spoke, I think Pacey, he talked about looking at what is the difference with other unions. Because like if you're a teacher and you're not, you know what I'm saying, you're not doing your job, or you're corrupt, or you're abusing children, the teachers union is not going to support you. Like no other unions act that way. But so I think starting there and making that comparison may be the way to go.
Here's the problem with that, and you know, I say it jokingly, but it is also serious. What is the difference between the police unions and the teachers unions and the this and the that and the other? They have guns. That is literally the difference. Because of that law and order thing, they have the bully pulpit. Politically, I'm talking about when these type of things come out. Politically, they have the bully pulpit that says, hey, we're the good guys. We're the ones to protect you. You can't go against us. And it's like you're going against the G.I. Joe force if you speak against them. And that's why, you know, in large mainstream American culture, it's easy for them to gain the sympathy of the mass. I was gonna say, sister, you okay? Because I'm like, she's either having a seizure or
No, yeah, I'm sorry.
You okay?
Was that me?
Yeah, you go ahead. You go ahead, Anne Marie, because whatever you got to say.
That's what it is. No, I was trying to not talk, honestly, because I like to listen in lives or Zooms. But I don't think that that's what it is. I think more so what it is the same thing that we struggle with ultimately without the unions and just in community in and of itself. It's finding the right people to back exactly what it is that we need them to listen to, so to speak. And so that's why I was doing all that, you know, what you were seeing, so to speak.
Flesh that out for me, though. What do you mean by that, though, sis? Flesh that out for me.
Because you alone have been doing hella work in and of itself for years and years and years, and not until just this year, the last couple weeks, months, has your work been highlighted. And I feel like that because all of the people that are in this Zoom, let's say, haven't been heard, you know, because not enough people in any of the organizations that we reside in or have participated in, so to speak, have been able to been boisterous enough. Not that we haven't been speaking, but that it hasn't been heard. And so I feel like that's a huge part of it. You had the right 6 people behind you in the, you know, police reform bill that happened, that was signed, and you've been doing the work for so long. And so no, I don't agree with the things that are being said. Owen, welcome. I appreciate you being here. Pacey, thank you for, you know, acknowledging, you know, a comment that I made. But I work for the Boston Public Library. I'm the first Black woman carpenter in 100 years. And honestly, that still doesn't hold any weight. And so I only say that to say that all of the bullets and even this forum, until until enough people speak about what is happening, nothing is going to change. Okay. So we have 20. I don't know what that means.
I think to that point too, like wherever we could put this bullet point, and we should advocate breaking the blue wall of silence. You know, oftentimes you hear the police, especially the commissioner, come forward and they always want information. They always want people to, you know, drop a dime and you know, report a crime and whatnot. But can we get that on that side? You know, break that blue wall of silence. We need to advocate for that.
Not for nothing, brother Randy. I don't know if you saw this. Hold on. If you don't saw this, where's my thing here now? Okay. Right here in my handy dandy fanny pack. I know y'all old. I know y'all got a fanny pack. But have y'all seen this right here? So what we tried to create was basically a stop snitching line or a start snitching line for the police. They be asking about tips on us.
Right.
I'm trying to establish something in the hood where, you know, we get tips on them.
That's right.
Jamal, I just dropped the link in the chat as well.
Oh, beautiful. And yeah, and Jake did the graphics on this. These are the types of things that we've been, you know, combining our little collective brains on for years. But yeah, you know, so to that point, yes, breaking the blue wall of silence. And you know, what do we want to call that too? Because it's not only the bad apples thing. There's another term I want to put in there if you're gonna put it in the notes. See something, say something. That's what I wanted to say.
Well, I just heard a speaker recently, and I liked her analogy, and she said the barrel is rotten. And I like it better because it kind of, you know, you look at the kid, the officer that killed George Floyd. He had 18 complaints against him, including killing someone. So, you know, that's not just him. I mean, it's him, but you know what I mean? It was sort of set up that would happen. And one of the other officers also had a lot of complaints. And the other two were being trained by those two corrupt officers. So that's why I like the barrel analogy, that it's the whole barrel. Or the barrel's rotten.
So certain things like that in the recent police reform thing, once again, those are things that I made a specific point to include in there, which means like I try to ask people, look, you know, look, if you're a driver and look, you know, you got one infraction, you got two infractions, you got 7 infractions, you got 17 infractions, we're gonna have to take your license, sir. You're a menace on the streets.
But King, you know that is not, the infraction piece is not, or the bad apple piece is not the highlight of what we're talking about. Like literally, we've had a slew of, I mean, for hundreds of years, it's been what it is. It literally has as little to do with apples and more to do with construct, which is what you've been preaching.
Okay, so in what I've been preaching is that I do believe in the bad apple theory, because I don't believe that all cops are bad, right?
I agree.
Right, so the structure within what they operate is bad, but I believe with a top to bottom, from the rooter to the tutor, restructuring of that structure, and a weeding out of those bad apples, as we say, right? And then empowering those who are actually believe in their oath and really want to do the right thing, then that is our best chance for change. Perfect.
And us getting into those spaces, because we've never wanted to be in those spaces.
Well, no, hold on, oh sis. Look, the fact of the matter is that's not a reality. We are in those spaces. Henceforth, we have a black man who's the commissioner, right?
Well, no, I mean us though.
Well, I don't think us is ever going to be in them spaces, because if you're talking about the real insular,
because you don't want to be, you've said that.
What us wants to be a cop? You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean, but I still think that when we get into those spaces, when we get into those spaces, it would be a completely different dynamic.
Well, thus far, all right, let's do this.
Could I add to that? Could I go ahead and add to that? Because if we're talking culture, I think you're talking about how do you change the culture overall.
And not for nothing, hold on, y'all. And I just want to say, yes, add to that, but I just want to be clear. I don't want to get us caught up in a philosophical debate about policing, what's wrong, whatever. This thing is about action items that we are trying to legitimize and things that we are going to do in our next thing in light of everything that has come to light via this documentary, as well as everything else police reform. But I don't want this to just turn into a thing where we're just discussing ad nauseum what's wrong with the police or We're trying to create things of how we're going to attack legislation and policy and this and that. And already we've got more than most meetings have ever had. But what I'm trying to come up with more. So yeah, make your point and then let's move on. Yes,
so
sir.
we'll maybe respond to this for the group then. Maybe, so what I think might be missing, if we know there's all this injustice, but it's not being addressed, one thing that I think may be missing is create a regular report on these injustices, and not just on the injustices, but what the impact of these injustices is on the communities, and put a dollar on it. So imagine this, imagine if every year, right, and I'm not suggesting this, but imagine every year the police department had a report put out against them, and it said, you know what, all the mess ups that you've done have cost the community this much money, and you need to give that back to the community. That would end up changing the culture each year. As they paid that out, they would say, wow, this has really hurt us. So then they would have to go ahead and do it. So that's my suggestion, is to support a regular report that would quantify the extreme damage that's been done to the whole communities, from things like this guy, this crazy police officer who was running around committing all these crimes. What was the real impact to all these communities? We got people I know still saying, hey, I remember that dirty cop and he busted so-and-so and all this stuff. And so really what's mind blowing is the extreme impact that it's having on all these communities. And I think without putting dollar numbers on it and a real accountability for that, I don't see how the culture ends up changing.
Okay, so one thing to note there, yep, and Jake is putting it in there now. Thank you, sir. Just know that part of what we put into the task force deals with just that. An annual review of policies and an annual, review, if you will. We probably didn't put it in the same language, but I'm going to say it now. An annual review of impact of those policies, right? In terms of a dollar amount, that's going to get tricky because, what you're basically talking about at that point is local, like, reparations. And, that's a longer conversation. And before I would even argue for local reparations at a general community level, meaning where police is, screwed us all over and everybody benefits from it, I would literally do, like, for instance, everybody shouldn't get like we need to find those who are most impacted. So for instance, this whole conversation, the series started from people like Sean Ellis. And even if we want to go to other people like Sean Drumgold, or even if we want to go to my guy, Jasia Muhtadi, there were too many people who have long been locked up. And so if we're going to do any form of the impact of policing, they get their free turkeys first. They are first in line, you dig? Because those are the people who have been most impacted.
May I say it a bit differently?
Yes, ma'am.
Have them think about it as the return on investment of doing the right thing. So that when people are policing in a way that's racially equitable and promotes social justice, that you're not having to pay out money in lawsuits, you're not having to hire, you're not having to pay overtime to have extra police for rallies, you're not having to deal with all the extra that comes from corrupt practices that don't value human life.
So, yep, okay, boom, you put ROI in there. Yep, Jake, he's right on it. ROI, doing the right thing. Yeah, exactly. It's more efficient. Exactly. I call that the cheaper the keeper philosophy.
Could I extend this a little bit and say also, I don't know, but I imagine there's research around like the impact of people turning up to do work that they don't believe in or that they can't personally support, or like the culture of silence inside, how a culture of silence inside an institution damages people who are inside that institution. Like, do you think, I imagine that working in a corrupt place doing work or being involved with things that you can't justify harms those people. And so as well, I guess the financial thing, I honestly don't like financial angles anymore for a bunch of reasons, but the idea that people are probably being damaged by being in a unhealthy workplace, I think it might be a good angle. But yeah.
So one angle that I know Mass Inc. is kind of interested in is looking at the fact that police suicides and correctional officer suicides are very high, and sometimes you can advocate for things that the community wants because it's actually harmful for these situations. That's another way of sort of getting them to kind of saying, well, this is not good for these guys. It's not actually good for them.
So not for nothing. It's not okay. So there you go. Jake's already writing it because he already knows. He just can't spell substance. But
It's the English way.
So Jake already knows. I mean, and this is the type of stuff we've been talking about, for years and years and years. Officers, these people are like, the highest for beating their significant others. In fact, I'll let you in on this little secret. During the task force, one of the things, because I do police reform and then I also do domestic violence, and I tried to bring that issue up during the police reform task force, and folks were like, they were just not like they were just a little trepidatious. A couple days later, a big report came out in the New York Times that revealed that 40% of law enforcement officers, significant others, experience domestic violence, right, or domestic abuse in all sorts of forms. And so it's all these rates and all the things. These are the quote unquote, if we wave the flag and we do the Captain America thing, these are the heroes of society. But they have some of the highest rates of suicide, domestic violence, substance abuse. And when I say substance abuse, we got to get specific. That means alcohol. I'm talking about pills. I'm talking about cocaine. You know what I mean? I mean, it's, they're not just smoking a joint on the weekend with their friends. You know what I mean? These people are the level of stress, and of course, it's a high stress job and all that, but it ends up bleeding out. And also, too, another level of bleeding out is also too the impact that it has on their children. If we were to do a database on their children, God bless them, and I don't want to besmirch anybody, but some of these people also produce the nuttiest children that society has ever seen. And their children go on to do other things because the experiences that they have grown up in the household and so on and so forth. So it literally, yes, the whole culture of officers and mental health of officers and whatnot, that is definitely a thing. And I know, once again, in the task force, we literally put that in there. I want more routine psychological checks and I don't know how to explain it. I'm not whatever they're doing right now, because they already get psychological checks, drug evaluations, and da 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 da. Clearly, whatever they're doing, it doesn't weed it out. It's not working. Because somebody will come in the office and say, "Hey, are you on drugs?" And you say, "No, of course not." And then they say, "All right, see you next year." It's not an in-depth psychological evaluation. Hey, you just had to shoot somebody the other day. How are you feeling? I feel okay. All right, great. See you next year. So I'm not really confident in the level of, even though they do have mental health services, domestic violences, and all sorts of services going on, clearly evidenced by the data. We're missing something, because these people are some of the most at-risk people and some of the most dangerous people in society, and we give them a badge and a gun and the power of arrest.
As I'm listening, I hear a lot of things that I'm listening to. It's powerful, and I feel like this is the way you change into a new democracy. But I just wanted to add something on digital marketing. I feel like a lot of people, do a lot of things that within the system, and like Ian was saying, a lot of things get quieted, and a lot of people ain't getting they flowers like they supposed to. But it ain't even just about recognition. Like Mr. Ellis had taught us, it's about working together and putting on for everybody. So I just want to say, go hard on digital marketing, maybe get like 60-second breakdowns on everything y'all talking about, with all the detail and everything. And even down to this whole panel or the Sean Ellis case, just everything.
Absolutely, sir. And not for nothing, and you gonna help. How about that?
You know how I'm rocking.
Absolutely. So all right, so let's go on. So we touched on procurement and witnesses, keeping an info, okay, that came up into civilian review. You could just put a plug in there for civilian review, because that's already on deck, but let's incorporate that. We don't need to elaborate on that. It's going down. Bump. Then what else? Okay, now we're on episode 4 here. There needs to be some sort of like, I'm gonna call it, who was it that reminded me earlier that the DA had the confidential, not confidentially, the conviction integrity unit. I think it was you, Kathy. Was it you? It was somebody who
I mentioned it earlier because you had mentioned it on Thursday when I had asked what your next steps would be.
Yes, Rachel. All right. So remember that. Remember that. And I'm giving all these things cute little acronyms. So that's the CIU, Conviction Integrity Unit. They probably already called that anyway. But okay, so the CIU, that comes now into play here with blah 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 blah. Not the chart. Okay, warrants. We need what was that called? Conviction Integrity Unit. We need something about warrant integrity unit. Meaning, if you've pulled 150,000 warrants in the past 2 months, somebody needs to say, what's up with you and these warrants? You know what I mean? And all of these warrants got one informant on it. You know what I mean? So we need a warrant integrity unit. How that sound? Does that make sense? I just be making these things up, but does that make sense, y'all? That sound like it's reasonable?
Yeah, I think it's clear these warrants the process has been abused. And so they should have these processes, but they're not working, or they didn't work in this case.
Okay, so once again, so we have a conviction integrity unit, and now we're also suggesting that there is a warrant integrity unit to make sure that any warrant that these people try to obtain is actually official. Hopefully it will be official at the point where they're trying to get it. But certainly if you're an officer who's pulled 30 warrants in the past year, somebody in the warrant integrity unit might say, we need to take a look at Officer McGillicuddy, right? Okay.
So can I ask a question when you talk about that? Like I know the Brianna case, a lot of the things they lied to get a warrant.
Hold on, what case? The what case?
The Brianna Taylor case. I'm sorry, I'm zoning out. But she, the warrant was unjust. I mean, the warrant had lies in it. Would that be something that would then you could get at that piece? Because to me, police officers aren't held accountable for that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So the Warrant Integrity Unit, although, see, this probably wouldn't be a catch-all for like the moment that they go down and get the warrant, the warrant that they go get would probably still go down. But I'm just saying that there would be some sort of watchdog at the back end that would say, yo, you know, you called for this warrant, this resulted in this drug bust or this death or this arrest, you know, what's up with this? And this is your 30th warrant in, you know, a year, and every witness that you have is Tyrone Johnson. Who the hell is Tyrone Johnson? You know what I mean? So that there would be some sort of check to just check once again, the integrity, the validity, to make sure that these people are not abusing this. And all of these, anything that we do, and anything I did on the Reform Task Force, I don't know that it's going to stop anything like in progress. You know what I mean? It is only, in my mind, made as a mechanism to really catch it after the fact. It's really, it's sad. I'm not Batman. I'm not preventing crimes. I'm trying to, you know, catch the crime after it happens, because really legally, I think we are legally maimed, right? We're legally maimed by what we can actually do in terms of to get before it. And legally, I think that the only things that we could do is try to shore up the mechanisms of what happens if this happens, then we do this. And in the case of this type of craziness, we do this. And yes, it should be attached to dollars, yes. But that's another thing. Once again, being on this task force, you know, they didn't give me the purse strings. If, you know, like if that was the case, I would have said $1 million. I would have been Oprah. You get $1 million and you get $1 million. You know what I'm saying? That's not what happens. But what we have to do is tighten up the policy where that opens up the door for those who legally can now challenge it on those premises and within those parameters. A lot of people looking like they're itching to say something. Please say something, and then let's move forward. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, you know, that that article that was just flashed up there, I put it in there, but I think that this conversation, right, we need to look at the whole, like there was a report that came out about how Black and brown people, Harvard study finds institutional racism permeates the Massachusetts justice system. You know, and so there's studies that have been made, and I think one of the ones that was a Supreme judge from the SJC that was behind one of these articles, a report that came out. Like, it's a known fact, you know, that racism has permeated the entire state system, and I think that we need to include that in this conversation and action steps moving forward. And I'm saying that to mean that it's not just, you know, the police department, but it's the system that also includes, you know, Black people over police, they're over sentenced, they're over incarcerated. You know, our communities are over police. We're sentenced at a greater rate, and then when we're sentenced and we end up doing more time. So there's like racism that permeates the entire system, and that whole thing needs to get looked at and rectified. Like, we know what's happening, we have the facts. Now we need to deconstruct that.
Okay, so when that came out actually during the fact when we were deliberating during the task force. And the beautiful thing about that is that was one of those things where I had just been telling those folks, you know, in our deliberations, like how bad it is. And oftentimes, you know, my word holds some weight, but, you know, it don't hold the ultimate weight. And oftentimes when I say something and I'm trying to, you know, make a point, several days later, something like this would come out. Bung. I have that I intended to be included in the final report, what was part of what would have been the supplemental thing, because I went to a wonderful university called Roxbury Community College, and there I learned how to do in my little papers, how to do all my little citations. And when I was doing all this Boston police reform, at the end of it, I have a long list of articles, reports, and so on and so forth that helped inform me, not only during this, but prior to this, because there's stuff in there like the St. Clair Commission is in there from, 1992 or whatever. But also these things are included. And now what I will put forth to this group in our mission now is at least me, Brother Randy, Brother Jamal, I know we're linked, Jake, Slint, all of us are linked. Anybody else who wants to be in now after this meeting, now what we have to do is now we got to have a study group where we're gonna, Jake, like I need to make Brother Randy, Brother Jamal privy to the Google Drives and all of the information that we've already amassed. And then, Brother Randy, what I would like you to do is Brother Allen still around? Is he still in Springfield?
Yeah, I can reach him.
Please, because we need one of them heavy duty research people, right? And we can put together the tribe, man, we could lay down the smackdown if we really do it, like, you know what I mean? This could be this could be a thing. Because I got a bunch of info, so we'll share all that, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, mass police reform. He needs to see though too. He needs to see the Blackstonian vault. You already know.
Yep, I got you.
We're about to overwhelm you with information. And anybody else who wants it. And anybody else who wants it, because it's there. It's there. All right. So all right, so let's go forward. We just stopped with the hold up. The last points of the report, the damage. Hold on, jurors. Okay. Also, too, we want updated policy. This is just a quick one. Updated policy on that paddy wagon stuff. What's the policy on the paddy wagon? Based on that scene, we all saw our brother get up out that paddy wagon, and you know what I mean, with all the Gestapo with him. So paddy wagon policy, we need to do that. Blah 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 blah. Okay. Okay. Oh yeah. Before that we were talking about the Warrant Integrity Unit. That was based on the fact of they had 47 warrants based on one informant, and 21% of the time when they did a bust, they found money. All the other police units that were like, comparable to that, they found money 66 to 67% of the time. But that particular unit is, so that's something where a Warrant Integrity Unit once again would come into play. Okay. We need a tighter situation of money claimed, right? Any money that's claimed, because remember they stole old boy's $2,300 because he was about to buy him a Honda Civic. I don't know if he was going to buy a Honda Civic, but I'm just being stereotypical. That's a joke, y'all. Y'all should laugh at that point.
We know.
Yeah. Listen, Gidget is the only Dominican here, and she laughed. All right. Forget y'all. You don't care. So, then also too, anytime an officer testifies against another officer. So remember when Brazil flipped against the other officers? Within internal affairs, there should almost be some sort of other record, and I don't know if there is, but what they would, Chief, you have been in the military. So, okay. So you're on base, you're at a bar off base, we get into a fight, you beat my ass. I file a report with the base. That's a civilian filing against a military personnel, right?
Sure.
But internally, what is it like if a military person, has to do a report against a military person? is it just quite simply like internal affairs, or is there another level of designation?
I mean, I would imagine there's all types of stuff, and I'm not one of those JAG folks, but there's the general understanding that both parties have to be whole, you know, and they have to kind of agree. So it's not like if with the civilian scenario you had, they would have just generated a report and sent it up, and it would have been like a bad job report, basically, and you would have been scolded. But when it's soldier, it has to be resolved so that on both parties, versus where it was the civilian one, they would have just ignored the civilian complaint, frankly.
Okay, so and that's kind of my thought. I believe that, you know, okay, so the police, in my mind, operate basically as, you know, a pseudo or paramilitary force in America. They're like our domestic, you know, police force. More people were coming in too.
You get articles in the military. You get articles against you, which are in the text. So you get an Article 15, or you get some behavior unbecoming, or maybe might be similar for police or something like that.
Okay, so what I'm saying is that I believe that the military, and not to say that the military always gets it right, but I believe that the military has a better structure for internal complaints than the police do when it comes to internal affairs. And so that, well, first of all, I would also like to see a study on, we know, or we can get the data on how many complaints, civilian complaints, are issued against officers. But it would also be interesting to see how many complaints against officers are generated from other officers. Hey, Officer McGillicuddy, we didn't like what he did. I would bet that civilian complaints are in the hundreds, and complaints from officers amongst officers might not even break 24.
I was just about to say, Jamal, we looked at that a little bit off of what we had access to, and it's tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of records, but the quick glance at the important ones that we looked at, it was like almost all of them were externally generated, and they did note where they came from, and then one of them, maybe one, would be internally generated. So yes, you know, the data generally supports that with a quick glance, but I think if we could really do a deep dive, that could be one of the things we could highlight.
Okay, so overall, we need to need to understand. I don't even know how you would put that into a nice little nugget, but yes, we need to understand civilian complaints versus officer generated complaints, and that would also speak to the fact that, you know, once again, with the whole stop snitching thing in the hood, that, you know, the biggest ones who don't snitch are in fact the law enforcement officers. How often do you tell on somebody who's doing wrong? Okay. All right. Well, okay. Okay. Another thing that this brings up, with all those retired officers and all their obnoxious statements, Ed McNeely, the other guy, blah blah blah, is also too, we need some sort of mechanism to check, like, who's still on the payroll, like, you know, check their record, like, you know, like, we need an investigation too into certain officers, like, you know, I damn near, I don't, you know, it's tough because they're gonna say it's a witch hunt and all this type of thing, but damn it, if they're witches, I want to burn them. Okay, I'm sorry. If it's a witch hunt, yeah, if you a witch, be scared. Okay, so I don't want to burn no witches that ain't witches, but if you are in fact a witch, yes, I want to burn you. Okay, so retired or whatever, we need to look up that and put in there like something like statute of limitations, investigations. I forget what we were talking about in there, but we basically used the logic that said, like, if they are so willing to say that this is a clean case, then that basically brings any case that they've ever worked under into question.
Jay, I kind of have that up here. We can figure out how to organize it
Okay,
all.
good.
I have some of that up here about, you
All
know,
right, good.
who was in
Good.
charge, records, document, turning stuff over, McNeely's old cases, judgment issue, Mulligan case was clean
Yep.
speaks to
Yep.
judgment of cleanliness.
Yes, sir.
All right, cool.
You were trained by the best.
The mind meld is complete. We on it.
Absolutely. All right, great. So now we go on. Boom. That's what I was there. Okay, also too, then this also goes into Shirley Max when he was with 21 hour a day lockdown. You know, a lot of the prison advocates and all this, of course, Brother Randy, you know a lot about this, and whatnot. But also too, this gets into, you know, we need to investigate too, just, you know, inhumane treatment in the prisons, you know. These lockdowns at, you know, 21 hours a day is goddamn, you know, you wouldn't do that to a fucking pit bull, part of my language. You know what I mean? And if you did it to a pit bull, white people would be outside your door. Okay. So 21 hour a day lockdown, those type of things, that is just inhumane. The shoe or whatever they call it up here, that's inhumane. Those brothers who went through the situation or probably still going through the damn situation where their water was all fucked up. Pardon me, I'm swearing now, but you know, it gets me mad.
That was
But, you know,
that was in Walpole. There was some folks out there who I was working with, the Deeper Than Water Coalition, and the brother out there who was organizing the prisoners, he was basically sorry, part of stuff. I think it was Norfolk, but he was
that was
organizing the prisoners on basically they had like him as like their elected person. There's a role within the prison where you kind of are elected to represent the prison population in negotiations with the administration, and he was that guy, and he was bringing up the water issue, and they ended up throwing him in the hole because he was buying cases of water from the outside and giving it out to folks, and they ended up saying he was like trying to use undue influence through the manipulation of access to clean water, you know what I'm saying, with and using that on some, you know, I'll give you 2 cases of water and you're gonna give me some whatever drugs or cigarettes, you know, illicit black market prison dealings, when literally he was trying to pass out water, and they ended up shipping him out to a whole nother place because he was raising such hell. So
put that right in there. Put prison retaliation against organizing, put religious freedoms, as Brother Randy talked about. It was actually Sean who made the petition so that the God bodies, nation of gods and earths, could be recognized as a religion. My guy Iros did the same thing. He was not locked up. He was like a chaplain for the Rastafarians in Fed prison in Georgia and whatnot. So that's a big thing. So putting it, religious freedom, and but put in there like particularly retaliation, intimidation, as it goes to the people who like are prison organizers, because that happened to those folks. That happened to Mac Hudson with the brothers from the AC. They shut down their Kwanzaa program. I mean, you know, and not for nothing. Look, there's drugs in prison. Folks is getting, you know, beat the hell down and all that. But then here you come with a program that says, hey, we want to read books every Tuesday. And they're like, no, the hell with that.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's crazy. So they stop it's the oppression towards the progression, and particularly with their what they say they are for corrections and whatnot. They should be awarding and supporting these brothers and giving these brothers extra, you know, all that.
Let me comment on that, because what it is really is the lack of cultural competency and actually retaliation for brothers trying to establish some type of cultural context or cultural education or culturally sensitive programming. Anything like that is really flagged down. I mean, you know, so we need to look at that because that's something that is very serious. Like even as far as books, I mean, at one point, you know, I came across a situation where brothers had ordered some Black historical books, like like by Sheikh Anta Diop and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And they were denied having those books because someone said that, you know, that those books weren't history books, but that's just somebody's opinion. You know what I mean? Like it's that crazy where, you know, you can get magazines, you can get whatever in there as far as, even if it's, you know, nonfiction books, but where you trying to get something where brothers are getting knowledge of self, you know, and then that is being flagged down and denied. Like they deny so many things that are culturally and religiously um, affiliated material that the brothers can use to gain knowledge of self, as we was talking about earlier. One of the reasons why you see Brother Sean the way he is now, as composed and civilized, and you know, people marvel at his peace and calm, is because of knowledge of self and some of the things that brothers do in there to improve themselves, that is generally frowned upon, and brothers actually have to battle to get those type of programs established. So that's an excellent point.
Absolutely. And now for nothing, I've experienced that, you know, myself. My book, my little poetry book was banned up in there, and New Black Panther Party was banned from sending any materials in there. Nation of Islam really only has I don't even want to say escaped from it, because God knows they've been through some hell.
Still
But
going
only,
through it.
I was gonna say, but only because, you know, y'all been down since the 50s. You know, are you still in there? And you know, but a lot like Nation Gods and Earth, labeled as a gang. You know, New Black Panther Party, labeled as a gang. And for those who don't understand too, at one point, the FBI had documented that the number one threat to American security, in their homeland internal security, was what they called the Islamification of the black man. And that was based on whatever was happening in jail. And they, you know, pick a Islam, whether you was in the Nation of Islam or whether you went Orthodox Sunni or whatever that, whether you was outside, whether you in Philly with the white robes and the beards, their number one fear was the Islamification of the black man. And that was, you know, this is a bona fide FBI document. Only until recently we were knocked out the box by the true culprit,
Right.
which is the white supremacists and all them right-wing militia groups and so on and so forth, blah, blah, blah. And now that is the number one, because look, we ain't never blew up no World Trade Center, no building, no, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? They have been the ones who've inflicted the most damage and all that. But yes, they are, you know, what Public Enemy said, the fear of the black planet. And of course, they know that the number one thing that they're concerned about is that brothers get the true knowledge of self. And that's why in prison, you more quick to get a porno book than you are to get Francis Cress Welsing. You more likely to you know, you more likely to develop whatever group you got going on, as long as you want to start a group talking about cars and motorcycles and whatever, great. You want to talk about black history and culture, problems. And you know, of course, this is probably not the time, so I won't do it, but I will just say that many people who have went inside those prisons to go minister to those people have paid a hell of a price, and they themselves have experienced some of the same abuse that the brothers have, because you know, when you're one-on-one in that waiting room or that corridor or that, you know, that little segue area or whatever, you know, they make it known that you too are not welcome and you too can get it. You dig?
Facts.
Yep. All right, so okay, so here's the point in my notes. We talked about the letter, so that's already in there. And just to accentuate on the letter was to be in support of a couple of things. the letter was to be in support of, you know, all of these policy changes that we want, legislation changes that we want, and also too the fact of what is the what damn, the word just went out of my brain. What options basically does Sean have at his disposal still, right? Can he get money? Like, how would that happen? Can he get exonerated? If so, how would that happen? What's the legal ramifications to that? Would it take, is that something that would have to go to the Supreme Judicial Court again? Is that something that Rachel Rollins could do? Like who? We have to really figure out like what umbrella all of that sits up under. So that was part of the letter. We also mentioned the timeline. And there were two timeline things that we mentioned. One was we wanted to kind of mention culturally where hip hop music was at this time. And I'll expand that now to pop culture. Sometimes you may have seen a documentary where, or even some of these little goofy Facebook things where they'd be like, you were born, like in my case, I was born January 22nd, 1971. Well, at that time, the number one song in the country was Roberta Flack, Killing Them Softly, or whatever the hell it was. So we toyed with the idea of a timeline that would also depict some of the cultural things that were going on this, the advent of crack, what some of the hip hop music was at the time, relating particularly to, once again, the crack and the guns and the drug, blah, blah, blah. So some sort of cultural timeline that also overlays, this. Then we also spoke to a timeline of also where in the world was Carmen Sandiego, meaning Willie Gross. So also, if we could also pinpoint times with Willie Gross's career where, we know by his own biography, hey, I started in 1985. And at some point we could pinpoint and, and trace the trajectory of his career along these. These are just things we were talking about. Who also mentioned, is he going on here? Okay, go ahead, Owen, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm really sorry. I feel like I've dragged this conversation a few directions, just getting up to speed with where you're all at. But I just want to say, like, coming from a very different world, the hip hop culture has been incredibly important in me understanding or having an interest in understanding. And I think that people from all sorts of communities all across the world feel that on maybe a deeper level than sometimes factual approaches, but I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna just sit back and keep listening. But I just want to say that. Yeah.
If I'm understanding correctly, are you talking about like using stories about people being more effective than data sometimes? Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, what I was talking about, and Jake knows more of this. Like some of the things Jake and I have done over the world. Yeah, actually, just show him, Jake. Show him.
What are we showing? The timelines?
Yeah, show him the timeline. Any old timeline.
All right. Timeline.
The point is that we use data and these points in history, and you can overlay stuff that when you see it in like a data visualization, graphically, a website, these type of things, blah blah blah, it really tells a whole different story.
But can I also ask though, before Jake says while he's looking for what he's looking for, you asking or you stating where the commissioner was in these spaces, that he's still in this time represents those things?
No, it came up. Well, I mean, look, we can only do the data thing of the timestamp. So that because of what came up in this documentary, It's just certain points, like, so
Right.
when Sean Ellis was arrested, he was a beat cop assigned to area what? You know what I mean?
Right. No, and even after that, I don't mean to cut you, excuse me, King. Even after that, like even in the documentary, he was very much, he solidified his statement in another statement. And so what I'm asking though is, while you present this, or Jake presents this, it's to show exactly what you're speaking of in reference to, well, overall, in reference to the points that are being made. That's why you're showing it again.
Yeah, well, okay, so the timeline would go, once again, these timelines would overlap. Okay.
Right.
And for Willie Gross, the part that we were trying to clarify is, where was he during the time period that all this was going on? Because he was not always the commissioner. We know, right? So we know his history as of recent, right? Because that's when he became more public. That's when, you know, everybody became to know who he is. So even before he was commissioner, in the last iteration, being the number 2 guy under Evans, we're clear on that. What we were trying to clarify is, where was he during this particular time? Where, you know, as he was basically making his bones and establishing his chops as an officer. So that's really what we were trying to clarify and get any information in that regard.
Right, to solidify exactly what he already said also in the documentary.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, what he said in the documentary, we now have a clear picture, like, we know what that is.
Okay.
We're clear on that.
Yes. Well,
We're clear on that.
I are, and so everyone else will be. Okay.
Yeah.
No. I think everyone on here is like we all are clear on what he said, because he said what he said, how he said what he said. He did what he did when he do what he do for TV.
Right. But also that's been his stance outside of Sean. And so I just, you know,
Rachel Rollins and all that. But what I'm saying is, the question that we were trying to clear up with the data and the timeline was not everything that we obviously know, since it's all been public, and since, you know, Google in his new iteration, which we know, what we were trying to figure out is where he was at those times, back in the 80s.
Well, to solidify those things, because you've done that for me. I mean, I knew about that also before. I'm sorry. I was just trying to gain some clarity.
That's why I spent that time on it, because I'm trying to be clear.
Right.
I'm less worried about what is now in the public sphere that everyone can clearly see.
Right.
That's Googleable, right? What I'm concerned about is, where was he at this particular archival moment in history?
No, absolutely. Thank you for that. That's why I've been having a seizure the whole time, because I knew already, and I just, you know, been.
No. If I had Netflix money, I would do a whole documentary on Willie Gross with a big budget, and it would be called Before the Hack.
That's one of the reasons why I'm here right now and having a seizure.
It's okay to laugh, brother Randy. It's all right to laugh.
Well, I've been having a seizure. I haven't been laughing. I've been having a seizure, apparently, according to you. So I just wanted to make sure that I was in tune with what was happening. So I do appreciate you kings that are, you know, present. Thank you for listening. I'm sorry.
Gucci.
Can I
I think that's
no earlier.
Basically, what you're saying is, we gotta take it and show the context of how it lines up again with what he presents himself to be, but also, you know, what Jamal's saying is, where he could have learned where he picked up those attitudes, and maybe he was, maybe there's some interesting stuff there.
I would definitely take it even further. I would take it further. I would take that further.
Hold on, right quick. And not just him, Keeler as well.
I would take that further. I'm curious now. I'm more curious how Gross got his position. I'm more curious now if really, I mean, Vladimir Putin was put in position to protect the folks before him. So I'm more curious now about Gross, and his position in that Netflix really was, you know, disturbing. So I'm even more interested in Commissioner Gross, and I think that's all valid.
One thing, let me make one point. His name is Gross, because no. I mean, I'm just telling you this as a point of fact, because I've spoke to him about, I'm funny like that. So when I speak to people, I try to make sure, because of the whole, you know, obviously the etymology, you know, gross, or gross, you know, he kind of got teased about that. So it's a point that his family's name is Gross, not Gross. You know what I mean? But that's neither here nor there. Some of the things that you said have in fact been gross.
I wanted to bring something else, and I don't know, you know, if y'all finish on that point, but when I was thinking about the previous comment, as far as looking at, you know, the corruption statewide with regards to when we're looking at the prison system and the whole shebang, right? And then earlier when we was listing the targets, who we're targeting, you know, we need to put the governor on there. You know what I'm saying? Like, the governor, you know, Boston is the capital of Massachusetts, right? This is the main city, and this is the major corruption in this city. And we know it's not just in Boston, but you know, this is statewide. So it, you know, and if we're looking at all of these systems, then he needs to be at that table.
Absolutely. And not for nothing, once again, like you said, not just Boston, because you know, Boston, Worcester, Lawrence, Springfield,
right.
Lynn, all of the anywhere where we are, and these major, whatever the major cities are in Massachusetts, major corruption. Okay. I
And
was
the governor
hoping
has a council dealing with the inner city communities, Black communities.
Yeah. When's the last time you heard from them, bro?
Man, are they still together like the Temptations?
Yo, there's a council. I didn't even know that.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, you know, yeah, that's a whole
It's
nother
been a
story.
while.
Yeah, that's a whole nother story. Now
Well,
somebody made a,
excuse me.
yes, ma'am.
I got a letter today from Tufts University. They're doing a study, and I live in Brookline, and the town gave them my name for the study about policing and stuff like that.
Okay.
So I was gonna break, you all was calling out the names of the city, the other cities, but my city is a surrounding area of Boston, and you have a lot of stuff going on out here.
Oh yeah, no doubt. I worked with I forget the brother's name, but you know him. He's an older black man. No. The fireman too. Gerald Alston. No, not Gerald Alston. Was it Gerald Alston? I forget. Yeah, it was Gerald Alston. But yeah, the fireman too. But no, there's a black man out there who he always rides his bike, and the police did him dirty. Is it his name? Not Gary.
And it specifically says they want to know about our views to the local police.
Yeah. Well, if you don't want to fill it out, feel free to send it to me and I'll fill it out for you. And I will certainly give them an earful.
It's not something that you fill out. It's something that you have to call them, and it's a research study done by them. I'll send you a copy of the letter.
Well, I encourage you to, respond to that. And if you would like to link with some other people in Brookline as well, we'd like to make them privy to that information. Now it's good that you chimed in, because actually I was going to ask you this, because this is next on my list. Was it you who brought up the name of Willie Tyrone Porter?
Yes.
Thank you. Boop. My notes be on point. So Jake, put that in there too. Please, right quick again, tell that story of Willie Tyrone Porter, because I had that in the list of things that we need to address on the action items.
Back in the 60s, he was with this girl who would become his wife, and she was extremely light-skinned, because she could pass for white, and they thought that she was white and he being black, and they tried to say that he was hugging her on the car, but they tried to say he was still in the car. They arrested him, threw him in the paddy wagon. The policeman stomped him on his arm, broke his arm, had the shoe print on his arm. And when my mom went to go and get her and the lawyer came, they asked my mother to take him to Boston City Hospital rather than to take him anyplace else. So she had to promise them that she would take him to City Hospital. Once they got him out, they took him to Peter Bennett, and they documented his arm and everything with the boot print on it, the shoe print heel on it. And this was, I don't know if you all are familiar with Reverend Woods. He was an activist back then, and he had all the young people. Martin Luther King came, they had the march here in Boston about police brutality back then.
Okay, I just want, okay, go ahead, continue.
So it's over the years, it's been quite a few people that has been messed over by the Boston Police Department. One of my friends at, I think I was about 14 or 15, one of my friends got shot and killed by Boston Police. Him and some more friends had stole a car. They had got out the car running, and he got killed running.
Okay.
So it goes back.
Yes, it does. All right. Thank you, ma'am. And Bump, I'm glad we caught that point because that was definitely in the notes. Let's go on more. Okay. Next point I think is salient. And look, by my notes now, we're in episode 5, y'all. So by my notes, episode 5, the issues that get brought up. This is the whole thing with Mulligan, Moore, and the money, and it is that. There needs to be some sort of, oh yeah, put this in there too. All these different units we talking about. There needs to be like a overtime integrity unit. You know what I mean? Just like, I don't know how the mayor feels about it, but if I was the mayor and I got paid $150,000 and $175,000 a year, and then there was some cop who was just, officer, Bumble guy, and he made $250,000, I might have a little issue with that. Maybe, you know what I mean? That'd just be me. Like, how does a regular officer who's not even like the commissioner or nothing like that make more than the mayor? As they said in the thing, make more than the mayor and the governor. I think somebody in some of our conversations brought up like an overtime cap. I think the analogy came up of like basketball players getting like a salary cap or something. And if there was some sort of way to just say, at what point is too much too much? The American dream and everything, we want people to be able to earn money. I get it, because they, zada-da-da. But like, at what point is too much too much? How much overtime, how much extra detail money can you get?
Right. And I would argue that overtime money hurts. And I would argue that too much overtime gives us less value for the officer that we're already paying. It's giving us less value because now it's taken away from what we're supposed to be getting there. So there's definitely a trade-off, and that line should be identified.
Right. And actually too, Jake, you might as well put in there, because we're going to get there anyway. You might as well put in there, because one of those things of overtime was the whole deal about, one of the ways that they get overtime is, by going to the courthouse. I can go to the courthouse for 15 minutes and I can get to 4 hours. And then I could, say I went to another, so I could end up getting more days, more hours in a day than it's actually humanly possible, just because I'm bipping and bopping to this one and that one. What they say, he worked 21 hours in a 24-hour day. And in that day, he probably really only worked 10 hours. You know what I mean? But he got that bump up. And two, at that time too, they're getting overtime. It's time and a half. It's all, you know, it bumps up into all that.
I also have in there to look at it at a budgetary level, because that's a thing that like, I know BPD consistently is like 30,000 or whatever, 300,000, $300 million in over budget and fucking and
So that's where we get there with some of my notes later. I know that we okay. Might as well get there now. What we had talked about is that those are the things that we wanted to in a letter to include Attorney General's office, U.S. Attorney, once again the FBI and all this. But you got to do this now in terms of just the like the overtime shit. Like there's a specific part of this letter or a thing in the letter, it might be even a separate letter, but it just goes to the actual overtime shit, because now that is just theft of public funds. It's fraud. It's, you know, now we're not talking about corruption. We're not talking about, oh, they beat people up, they kill people, they, you know, they lock people up wrongfully. This is where they'll be like, what? They, you know, oh, they killed somebody? All right, whatever. They stole $2 from the taxpayer. You know what I mean? That's what they, you know what I mean? You got to talk to them about money. All right. So this is like fraud. This is even like, what did I say too? I said Inspector General, right? Yeah, I said the Inspector General. This is like even Internal Revenue, like, you know, Department of Revenue. This is where those type of people get involved, because you know, you're cheating on your paycheck, you're cheating on, this is all that. Okay, so there's that combination. Okay, boom. I'm gonna move quicker now, y'all, because it's 9:23, right? All right, so even property ownership. This would be tricky, but at some point, because see, you know, once again, being in America, we can't like limit people from owning property. But one of the things of the amount of property that he owned and just that was, you know, that should have, once again, I think they mentioned in the thing of he was living beyond his means.
It is.
Okay. So I don't want to mess up anybody's American dream if they're able to own property and this, that, the other, whatever. But to a certain degree, once it should raise the level of suspicion, you know, when you were living beyond your means. Let's just put it like that. Okay. Also, too, a deep dive into hopefully we put these things in there too. The anti-corruption unit, is that somewhere in there? We need a deep dive into that, and we need to figure out all the policies that govern them. We need to figure out how we enhance them and take off whatever inhibiting factors they have against them. So that's yeah, that's that. Once again, just accentuate. Oh, you said over court appearances and pay. Put right next to court appearances and payments. Put court scandal, because that's separate than just that. But make sure you put scandal there. Yeah, right. Because they got 201 out of 231 were court days. Submitted bogus court dates, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, larceny of public funds was what it was called. The chain of command again comes in again, because remember, we all had a problem where this would have been in the lap of anti-corruption, but somehow somebody from on high was like, yo, no, and they gave that off to internal affairs, and that was an effort to silence it. So there needs to be a clear chain of command that will not disrupt anti-corruption processes. Once again, we already talked about FOIAs. FOIAs have to go through. Yeah, Rosemary had to appeal to a supervisor after 6 months and pay whatever, what she could pay, whatever, I don't care. But she shouldn't even have had to appeal, and it shouldn't have took no 6 months. She could pay though. She's a lawyer. For regular nonprofits, and like if you were just a guy in jail trying to do that, you shouldn't have to pay. You know, then you do a waiver. We already know that. Okay. 17 months later, she got the incomplete files and blah blah blah. So once again, that goes to withholding evidence and so on and so forth. Discovery, okay, blah blah blah. Okay, blah blah blah. Okay, we mentioned Detective Keeler, which once again brings about any officer who is notoriously an officer who has a history, their entire career, and in any case that they dealt with, particularly if any case that they dealt with encompasses somebody who's still in jail right now, that needs to be reopened and looked at. Okay. Oh, that Rule 205, the removal of body. That was a big point. The whole removal of the body. We could say that is like integrity of the crime scene, right? Because now that Jake deals with integrity of the crime scene, that deals with like evidence tampering, that deals with you might as well put witness tampering in there too. Integrity of the crime scene, evidence tampering, witness tampering, violation of chain of custody, right? Because it was supposed to be the DA and the medical examiner, the coroner.
Jamal,
Yes, ma'am.
did you mention the something should be done about the body cameras?
Well, but they didn't have body cameras then.
I know, but I'm saying in this letter,
Oh, well, okay,
you
yeah.
know, how they shut them off and stuff like that.
No, ma'am. No, they don't. Okay. So yes, I do understand what you're talking about, but the way that the body cameras are manifested right now, that will really not be a problem. Most of that has been addressed with the task force or what have you. That's not gonna, that's not gonna be a main problem here.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, we will note that point. Yes, body cameras. And Jake, put next to that too, all camera footage, whether that is
News.
news footage, commercial, or
Private citizen.
or residential, absolutely, and cell phone. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Blah, 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 blah. Yep. So that was that. Developing a clear policy as it pertains to cell phones and cell phone retention, and the retention of cell phone data. This is less of a problem now with all the new technology, but we'll put that in there. And search of a car. What happens in the immediate aftermath, like a car where a homicide, where there's a person inside the car. Once again, that goes to chain of custody. All of these type of things, forensics, detectives. Once again, we already mentioned, but we need to once again make sure. Once again, this was a homicide investigated by narcotics agents who should not have even been on this. Okay. Okay, so we got all that. We did something about witness integrity, and just making sure that that is in there. We got that witness integrity. Yeah, we got the forensic, the video. Yep, the phone. Yep. You know what? Back when it goes to phone, put phone preservation at earliest opportunity, just in case a case like this arises again and they ever try to do anything goofy again. Put phone preservation at earliest opportunity. That should be the policy. They see a phone, plug the bitch into a charger and put it in a Ziploc bag immediately. You know what I mean? All right. All right. All right. Now here's where we get into a whole bunch of good stuff. All right. I will add something in here, which was already in the task force. Any officer who is, you know, whatever, has any involvement with one, domestic violence. Secondly, any involvement with prostitution or, you know, any kind of sexual impropriety, and also involvement with minors. There needs to be like that, almost needs to be another special thing. You know, I could also do a whole nother thing on officers with, you know, drunk officers and like substance abuse officers. Like, but there seems to be a particular set of officers who have a problem with beating women, all manner of sexual misconduct, and dealing with minors. So I want to make that as a special thing. Okay, boom. Then now, this is where I really honed in on the notes, and I just want to make sure. I think we have already all this already in there. The Inspector General. Yep, already put that up there. Yep, the top paid public employees, and not for nothing too. Every year, the city of Boston, you know, puts out their list. You know, the BPD, BPS, firefighters. I mean, you can find everybody there. I used to joke for the females in the community. I'd be like, you can go find you an appropriate mate in there because you can find out all the top earners from every jurisdiction. But all right. So the letter part, I said, we have the Inspector General, right? Well, we have the Inspector General. We already have in there overtime fraud, public funds. We have Attorney General Healy. We have U.S. Attorney Lelling. We have in there. We put in there? Yep, you got Governor Baker. We got Baker in there. Oh, also too, another thing. Put this separate from that. We also made mention that we also need to identify candidates for office and these other things. So particularly for DA, to be able to identify potential candidates for DA, particularly in Plymouth, Middlesex, Worcester County, and I forget what Springfield is. I think it's Hamden.
Yeah, Hamden, Hampshire, something like that.
Yeah, Hamden, whatever.
It's Hamden.
Yeah, Hamden, and just put etc. Just because wherever, you know. Boom. Okay, now we're getting down to the end of it. Okay, well, and I think we don't have much here after this. This all is out of the job. Oh, integrity of investigations. Also, too, via the fact that the Good Old Boys Network was referenced so much, we also want to take special care to make sure that the people who end up doing these investigations is not Uncle Freddie and, you know, you're the son, you know, of the cop that my grandfather used to be a partner with and all that. We want to remove all levels of familiarity and nepotism and, you know, all of that type of stuff. We want to preserve, I'm going to call this the integrity and the sanctity of investigations. Write that down because we're doing a whole bunch of integrity of investigation. Put sanctity too. and if y'all notice the way my brain works and as this conversation is moving, there's a lot of theme words. So we're going to keep using things like integrity, witness integrity, conviction integrity, this, that, the other, blah, blah, blah. This, and when we pull all this together and we throw all this, we're going to come up with a big thing.
So Jamal, I got two little things to say. One, I put something in the chat. I think Jake already grabbed it anyway, but it's basically a law that we're trying to get passed for like more than 10 years, specifically looking at juvenile justice system, like the police and the courts and how racist they are. So that's a law. So I put that in. And the second thing is a concern that I've gotten recently. It's kind of picking up on something that Minister Randy mentioned, is abuse in prisons. The people who are Prius investigators that investigate sex abuse sometimes are former DOC employees. So DOC is being investigated by former DOC employees, and for something like sex and rape, that's unacceptable.
Okay, so let's include in there once again. I mean, most of it, you're right, exactly. With BPD, police, correction officers. I mean, shit, we might as well include at that point, some like social service agency workers and such themselves, because a lot of abuse also happens at that level. So on and so forth. So yes, all that.
And I also said if anyone wants to talk to me specifically about the law related to juvenile data collection, I put my email in there because I've been working on that for many years. So I'm open to any ideas or help people have on that. It's currently stuck in the Senate Ways and Means, and I think it might die. And it's been more than 10 years, it keeps dying. But at least it made this far, but yeah, sorry.
And you work with Lisa Thoreau, right?
I do not, nope.
You don't?
Nope.
Okay, so I wonder who are the juvenile people we have on the same thing. So we'll compare notes later. But once again, this is another example of how we. I thought you were in that circle, but if you're not, then you need to be, because there's a bunch of people that we all, if we don't have in common, that we should.
Okay, great. Sounds great.
All right.
Rachel, are you familiar with this?
Yes, I feel like I've heard about it for sure. But I don't know everything about it, so I don't quote me. But yeah.
Well, the link is in there, so we on it. Let's go.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, so we talked a little bit about trying to shape and inform, like who could be DAs in this various area. I think we also need to incorporate what I tried to put in the task force, and something we've been working on a minute as well, is that the mayor, whoever, also needs to work with us. When it comes time to pick a new commissioner, there also needs to be some sort of public process for commissioner, even though it's not an elected position, much like Boston Public Schools. What do you call that? What do you call the people? The BPS. What do you call that lady who runs everything now? The BPS. It's not a commissioner.
Superintendent.
Thank you, the superintendent. The same type of mechanism that they do when they're choosing the BPS superintendent and they're having community forums and so on and so forth. I would really like to see that type of same forum, that same mechanism adopted for police commissioner, and not because at the end of the day, the people still don't get to choose the superintendent of schools. The mayor still ultimately says, I choose this one, I choose that one. But by the time you've had all these community meetings and they've had a chance to interact and whatnot, the mayor can get a better sense, not just this mayor, but whoever's the mayor in the future could get a better sense to say, okay, I like the way that this person interacts or whatever. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. Yes, that, blah, blah, blah. I think we did within the witness integrity thing, always keeping a record of any witness that is paid. So any witness that is paid via reward or anything else, also tracking the, I have it here as tracking or tracing, I said, but I think I probably meant tracking or tracing, whatever, witness payments, any reward money or anything, and via whether it comes from the DA's office or any subsequent, you know, nonprofit, or yes, all sources. There you go. Okay, what else comes up here? Blah 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 blah. If they are found to have evidence that was previously submitted that is now found to be bogus, there should be a penalty on that. So for instance, if you used to have fingerprints and now those fingerprints are known to be bogus, well, that should go down as a charge against you, like, pardon me, evidence tampering, with, you know, evidence tampering, pardon me, or maybe even obstruction or whatever, because if you came up with those fingerprints and those fingerprints is, you know, bogus, well, where did they come from? Your mama made them? Where did it come from? You made them. And that is, that goes to, once again, evidence tampering and evidence manufacturing. Boom. We should also put something in there that Dan Conley should be burned at the stake in the Boston Commons. Put that in there, Jake.
I feel like you got to come up with something more cowboy to go with the Dirty Dan wanted poster we did. Like, you know, bury him, and let the
Scorpions eat it, pick at his flesh.
you know, bury him in some cowboy boots in the desert.
Okay. Hey, let's do this. I want to put this down, like anything that it could be called, like, I want to call this like coercion of pleas. Something about, like, the DA should not be able to say, hey, you know, Brother Randy, we're gonna let you go free, but only if you say Brother Jamal is a dirty dog.
Right.
Like, they shouldn't be able to even enter those type of, like, I don't know if you want to call it, like, is it a quid pro quo or whatever? Look, like, for instance, if they want, if they are giving you a plea deal, it should just be a plea deal based off of the facts of whatever you dealing with. They shouldn't be able to, like, add like an extra little thing. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how to word that, but
that's like bribery. They bribing you, and they bribing you with your freedom. Like, you know, yeah.
Any plea deal should be free of coercion and bribery.
There you go.
To particularly to coerce further testimony. Okay. Okay, we already talked about the payments before. Oh, we talked about the what did I say? The IG, which was the Inspector General, but now we're gonna talk about the put with right next to the Inspector General, put what they talked about, the comptroller, the comptroller. That's another little bean counter mechanism. They another ones that be, you know, that's like taxes and stuff. Inspector General, the comptroller, because that's who they had to go to actually, like, that's who cuts the checks or keeps record of the check cuttings. Okay. All right. We also talked about withholding of evidence and So, you know, yeah, all the withholding of discovery these people did. Blah blah blah. We're close to the end now, y'all. Okay. We wanted to make sure, once again, the folks that we wanted to hold accountable. This is part of the letter, but outside of the letter, we also want to have some private conversations with Rachel Rollins, where she referenced the case, and, you know, she was like, I got an eyeball on it and blah, blah, blah. So, you know, boom, we want to, okay, so sister, now based on what you know and everything that happened and the Netflix and everything, what you thinking now? So we need to do a temperature check with Rachel Rollins. Also too, we need to do a come to Jesus moment with Willie Gross. So those are those are two ones there. Also too, you might as well put in there too, Rosemary Scapicchio, but not in a bad way. But when we talk about the legal thing, we probably should talk to her first to find out what she feels as though would be helpful. And like, you know what I mean? Like she know the best, you know what I mean? So we can have a conversation with her, or, you know, and via Sean or whatever, but to find out what they feel as though would be helpful for them. Okay. Zada. We at some point we also should try to have, I don't know if this is a private conversation or whatever, this is another come to Jesus moment with the union. The union at some point has to answer for a lot of this stuff. And once again, you know, as the kind of the threats that going on, like, well, if she does this, it's gonna be this, and you know, remember the whole it's a bad thing, and you know, like what's, you know, at some point, these are people who are also tax on the taxpayer trough. Okay, trial prep. This is,
And we need access to the cadets in the police academy. You gotta catch them early.
And to incorporate, yes, incorporating this into training. Yes, not for nothing. Damn near every cadet should be forced to watch this entire series with toothpicks under their eyelids, like they used to do in the cartoons. Right?
This is
mandatory viewing.
This is what we don't do.
Yeah, incorporate this into be, yes. Thank you, Jake. All right. We can't do anything about the slimy move that they did with the resignation a couple of months before. We can't do anything about that, although that was slimy.
I mean, I think in light of the documentary, like they need to walk those statements back, like just like they had the strength to get up there and have a press conference to dirty his name. Is almost like, you know what I'm saying, that's like what do you call that, defamation of character. You know, now that the documentary's out, why not let's have another press conference?
Well, Rachel may do that. The people who actually said that probably wouldn't, whatever. But okay, that brings up the next thing, which is, remember the whole dilemma around the fact that they were having a press conference and the lawyer didn't know what was going on. There needs to be a policy that the DA, before any major action on a case, must inform the principals of that case, meaning that legal defense team or the you know, the plaintiff, not the plaintiff, the defendant in that case, you know, so that no more could it just be, oh, we're having a press conference at 2 p.m. and everybody's scrambling talking about wonder what it is. There needs to be a policy that's almost like court. That should almost be like a discovery, almost. Like I can't just pop up in court with no new evidence that I ain't already told you about. You know what I mean? Every move I make or any new information that comes in, you're supposed to be privy to it at the same time. Once I know, you know. You know what I mean? So that. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. We already talked about Gross. Not for nothing too. I don't want to be a stickler, but let me go back. The press conference happened on 12/17. Then everything else happened on the 18th. Not for nothing too. I want immediate GPS removal. As soon as they said they was going to dismiss, What? Ain't nobody got no scissors available?
Right.
Cut that thing off, put it in a Ziploc bag. Here go your property back. Okay? I don't even like the fact that it took another 24 hours for him to keep the damn thing on his ankle. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right, now let's go. This is boom. Okay, once again, we talked again because here comes the statement of Ed McNeely. No corruption, no cover up, clean case. The same thing he said before, cleanest case. We already put in there. And well, if anybody who thinks that's a clean case, we need to pull up all your cases. You know what I mean? Boom. Okay, Rachel sworn in. Power of woman. Okay, the only thing I have here again is to reiterate the BPS, which is the Bureau of Professional Standards, and the ACU, which is the Anti-Corruption Unit. We are done, and done. All right, now who got comments, feedback, or whatever? I think that's everything. Jake, how many pages is that? Does Google do pages?
I believe we're up to 4 or 5. We got 1, 2, 3.
Six. Oh, it says 6. 4 or 6.
4, 5, 6. Yeah.
All right. So not for nothing, y'all. I just want to take a pause here. One, because I'm exhausted and I need to wet my whistle. And two, because Jake, others who have been in meetings with me before, as much as I am a talker and like to talk, I don't like to have these meetings where it's just a bunch of this, that, the other. So all of us can now be proud. We just came through a meeting where we have a goddamn 6-page document. No, let me rephrase that. Not a goddamn, a God blessed 6-page document, okay, already, which is more than most people who meet for months and weeks and months and da that ever come up with. So we got a hell of a framework already, as the kids say. Okay.
Yeah. So some of this stuff is pretty rough, and I would love
that's the point.
Input on how we can kind of fine tune it, but
no, not love, insist, because this is the point. It's a Google Doc now. Some people have already chimed in of where they might want to add in or whatever. So now, Jake, as I go wet my whistle, please break down again for those who want to be involved on the now. Now we're going to go through, not now tonight. We're just talking about it, but in your own leisure time now, those who want to now add back on this and have input. And, don't change nothing, don't delete nothing or whatever. Use all the Google tools and, put it in red and the markups and all that. But everybody now has the ability off of this framework to add in anything that we missed. This is a cooperative effort. This is crowdsourcing. This is a brain trust. So everybody get involved. Jake, tell them how to get down.
Yeah, so if anybody wants to drop their email in the chat, I will share control of the document with folks. Here we go. We're getting some emails.
I've sent you an email when I left the meeting to try and get back in, but I prefer not to put it up in public places sometimes. Sorry. Yeah.
If you want to give me your email, but you want to do it privately, when you go into the chat, you can change it from everybody to his name.
Okay. I'll do that. Oh shit, what difference does it make? I'll just put it up. I don't think there's a problem.
Hold on, what was the question? Did I miss a question?
No, we're just talking tech stuff.
Okay.
So far.
Yeah.
I'm just getting emails from folks to share with. Where's this chat? They really need a better way to bring the chat menu up.
Well, when it's done, everything that goes in the chat, when I download it, it gives me the video file, it gives me an audio file, and it gives me a text file of all the chat. So everybody who put anything into the chat from this session and all the others, I have, you know, the text files of the chat. Pardon me, I made some wonderful curry chickpeas, and these are delicious.
Like I say, that whole thing is wildly disturbing, man. That's some crazy goings on. Like, I watched all the documentary, but when it's broken down like that into these, how many issues have that covered? Like, we fired a governor here for taking a bottle of wine when he wasn't meant to. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Far out.
The thing
Now,
I've heard from people overseas is we spend a lot for our government and don't get a lot for it. And I think that's a pretty consistent observation I've heard from the outside in of our.
and not for nothing, because once again, we don't know you from nothing. And you stumbled upon this thing. But now you've gotten to see a community meeting in real time, a guy like me, unorthodox, all this thing that's going on here. What all I could say is take this process and duplicate it down under. Find the like-minded people such as yourself who are white like you, and find those people. And then also find the Black people, the Aboriginal people who are there, who are the activists on the ground there, and find out what you can do to enhance and support them in what they're doing. And ultimately, the tools that you can use are the same tools here, at least for me. Don't listen, if anybody wants you to go to a rally and just like hold up a sign and like, you know, shout and all that, that's not really where it's at. Where it's at is this stuff, trying to develop policy and legislation that can actually change the laws of the land that hopefully improve the quality of life for the people that live in the land. And if you take that, my friend, you will be very far along.
Yeah. We'll take what I've learned here and try and apply it. If you would like any help with the data stuff, I'm totally down for that. Obviously, my realization is that you've obviously been working on this stuff your whole life, so you're way ahead of me. But I can do a bit of stuff with the computers, so I would do that if you need a hand. I don't know what you got.
Well, somebody.
Anyway, I think
As somebody who does the data stuff a lot, I appreciate any of the help, man, because it's we need that. And then I know Jamal, you had said there might be somebody Brother Randy could reach out to, who might have some data science stuff for us. That would be cool.
Yep, Brother Allen.
So I was wondering if we wanted to do that, do we want to go real quick and kind of just if anybody here. I just wanted to know if anybody here wanted to kind of talk about things that they think they might be able to help with in particular, or if we thought there might be any kind of roles we need to identify where we might not necessarily know who's on board, but folks who could help. So I don't know if we want to do that or not, or if folks have a different direction they want to take it.
Well, let me make this suggestion. Since now we're getting more people's emails, let's send out an email to the collective group that now says that. Respond with get in where you fit in, what's your area of expertise? You know, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, somebody like Rachel is going to say, well, I work in the state house. I could deal on legislative stuff and whatever else her expertise is besides that. She might also be a computer, you know, data expert or whatever. Okay, all right, well, no problem. I'm sorry. But you know what I mean? But everybody's going to have certain, you know, networks that they have of people that they can reach out to, and also certain levels of expertise that where they say, oh, you know, whatever. So this is a hell of a start. No, I wasn't. This ain't a hell of a start. It's a heaven of a start, right? And we have more already than most have. So at this point now, I would just say we have everybody's email, you know, voted on. And what else do we want to do here? Yeah, well, everybody got here. So yeah, so that's basically it. We'll be in contact, and we are now, you know, we're linked. Us, some of the other people who, you know, were on previous discussions and whatnot. But once again, we weren't doing all this, you know, just to waste time. We've come to some sort of conclusion. Now it's, you know, next steps. What now? We've achieved we've at least achieved the first steps to the next steps. And once again, we have a heck of a foundation to work on. That's a hell of a list, y'all. Heck of a list. All right. So all right, let's go ahead. And with that, I'm gonna end out the night. And I'm gonna say, as I usually say, I hope everybody had a great day today. I hope everybody was great today, did something great today. With a little bit rest of this night, go do something great. Tell somebody you love them. Better yet, show somebody some love. Show some love to a youth or an elder. And as always, push past the pain to the power. And as always, please choose righteousness over ratchetness. And as always, please don't fall for the banana in the tailpipe. And to close us out in prayer tonight, Minister Randy, would you do the honors, sir?
Sure. Attention, prayer, assume the position that's right for you. In the name of the one God to whom our holy praises are forever due, the God of our ancestors, the revealer of all truth, the sender of all prophets, the God of Abraham, Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad. We thank you for all of your blessings. We thank you for the energy that was shared tonight. We thank you for this gathering. We thank you for everyone that tuned in. We thank you for all the information. We thank you for the hard work. Pray that you bless our efforts as we embark on this journey to bring justice to Boston and change the police and the criminal justice system, and to ease the plight of our people who have been suffering at the hands of corrupt cops. Pray that you bless our efforts to be successful and to be impactful, to reach those that need to be reached, and to get our community engaged in this most important work. Bless all those that participated in this conversation, and I pray for your protection on each and every one from any attacks that may be planned against us, but no weapon formed against the righteous shall prosper. We ask you this in the name of all of your prophets, messengers, and apostles. Let us all say amen.
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 All right, y'all. It's been beautiful, man. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in and contributing and everything. You know, it really has been beautiful, and everybody has added on and everything. And not for nothing, stay tuned too, because the next thing that we're striving to do is we're gonna strive to have a forum with a bunch of folks who is wrongfully convicted, and obviously stay tuned with this because we're trying to move all this forward and move on the policy. But just stay tuned for what's next, and big Jaguan.
Thank you, everybody.
Peace, family.
All right.
Peace.
Okay, right.
Peace.
Good night.
Good night.